First Corinthians, uh, tonight, let's see, double check, yep. So, obviously, this will be an introduction and part of chapter one. Really, we're only going to have time, I'm pretty sure that the only time we're gonna have is to get down to number 8. If we get down to number 8, we're probably gonna have a little bit more robust discussion than that. But we'll see. But we should at least get down to number 8. Right off the bat in our introduction, he says, after referring to a map of Europe, give the location of Corinth. And so instead of Europe, I decided to go with a map of the New Testament world, a map of the New Testament world. And so right in the middle of the map is, of course, you've got the Mediterranean Sea right there dominating the entire landscape there. And then coming down in the middle, you've got two main peninsulas. The one on the west side, of course, is the Italian peninsula, Italy, and the one on the east side is Greece. And so you got Achaia coming down into that peninsula. It narrows to a little strip of about 13 miles. And in that strip, it's called an isthmus. In that little strip, that's where Corinth is. And then after that is the Peloponnesian Peninsula there. So Corinth, as we'll see here in just a second, plays a very vital role in in the ancient world. It did anyway. It played a vital role strategically because of where it was. They have over the years then dug a canal, which is very logical, to kind of cut off the Peloponnesian peninsula there, so that you could go from Italy over to Asia Minor, up to the Black Sea very quickly. It doesn't save you near as much time as the Panama Canal, but it does save time, okay? So having a canal well placed is definitely a good thing. And where Corinth is located is just an excellent place for a canal. And when you do have a canal like that, then that is an opportunity for economic growth and population growth, which is exactly what happened to this little piece of property there. Okay, so there's Corinth right there in this little section of Greece. And of course, you see the Black Sea, the Mediterranean. Here's Italy and Greece there, and coming down there to Corinth. So it is obviously a very centrally located city, very strategic city, ships coming in and out, land traffic if you wanted to go down to Sparta or any of the other Peloponnesian, or maybe you wanted to come down and go over to some of the islands surrounding, then you would have to go through Corinth as well. Even if you don't want to go down to Crete, you would want to go. You'd want to go to Corinth. Okay. Thoughts or questions about location? Location. Okay, great. All right. First century Corinth. It says here, using a good reference source, that would be me. Bring to class a number of interesting facts about the Corinth of Paul's day. What do you have? Biblical companions?
We did in ladies' Bible class.
Oh, okay, good. I used Bob Knox's commentary on 1 Corinthians and several other resources myself. I did not use that, by the way. But that is a good one. That is a good one.
It has a lot of good information.
So let's go over I've got two slides here, and then we'll kind of open it up for more comments as to what Corinth was. First of all, again, located on the isthmus connecting Achaia, that is Greece, to the Peloponnesian Peninsula, and it is the little strip of land that is in between the Ionian Sea on the Italian side and the Aegean Sea on the Asia Minor side of Greece. And so you've got the waterway east to west and land north to south there. Because what is an isthmus? Pierce, what is an isthmus?
The neck of land between two larger masses of land.
Okay. What would be the water version of an isthmus? No, I'm thinking of a natural. A canal would be, like they made a canal.
Well, you know, the isthmus of Panama, where they put the Panama Canal anyway, because there's a little stretch of land.
Right, exactly, because that's the most narrow part, so that's where you want to put a canal. But what is the natural water?
A river?
No. Think Magellan.
Straight.
Yes, a strait. And so a strait is a narrow body of water connecting two larger bodies of water. And an isthmus is a narrow strip of land connecting two larger pieces of land. Okay, did you learn something new today? No, you're going to forget it in 3 seconds because it's not emotional learning. Not emotional learning. Okay. The city proper, the ancient city, now the current city is located about 3 miles away from the ancient city. But the ancient city was located southwest corner of the isthmus. And the reason why it was located there was because the plain came up, and so it was elevated. So it was very easily defended before continuing up into a mount. And that mount is about 1,600 feet above sea level. So dramatic differences in elevation right from the sea level. So the ancient city proper was elevated from below. Now the ancient city, you know, they say it was, of course, populated long time ago. So that whole area then had people coming in and out of it for a long time. And then it was part of the Greek city-states and the Aegean League and things of that nature. And when that league went against Rome, as Rome was starting to build and, you know, create its power, world power, then Corinth was the first to go because it was the largest city of the Confederacy of Greek city-states. And Mummius, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I'm going to go with Mummius, destroyed Corinth. He killed all the men of the city, and this is a large city. This is not a small city. This is a large city. Probably in between 80 and 100,000 people. He killed all the men, and he sold all of the women and children into slavery. So that was how Mummius decided to take care of the city of Corinth a long time ago. Then in 46 or 44 BC, a fella you probably have heard of before, one Julius Caesar, rebuilt that ancient city because he saw its strategic place and location. And so he rebuilt the city in 44 BC. And so in just really about 100 years, from 44 BC to about, 44 AD in, let's say, the 50s or so, so a little over 100 years, this city had grown to about 500,000 people. And so it was quite a bustling town because it was located in such a central area. That, and it had a little help. Let's note that for the aristocracy of the city, especially, slavery was a huge industry. Of course, in the ancient world, slavery was huge anyway, was it not? I mean, every culture, I mean, that's how you improved your empire, was through slavery in the ancient world. Corinth was no different. They enslaved and had a lot of slave trade going on in that city for, years and years and years and years. Okay? Their biggest thing, though, when you read 1 Corinthians, and as we'll go to Acts chapter 18 here in just a moment, but especially when you read the book of 1 Corinthians, what is striking to you about the city itself and some of the things that essentially Paul kind of touches on? What's striking about the city?
How progressive it is.
Okay, progressive, that's kind of an interesting word. That is a good word, though. I like that. There is a lot of immorality. We might even really say amorality. It's interesting that Rome looked at Christianity as being atheists because Christians believe in how many gods? One God, monotheistic. And so the Romans, the Greeks and Romans, looked at that and essentially said, well, you just don't believe in God at all. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. But that's how they saw it, okay? We look at them and see how immoral they are for the practices that they had through their, what kind of theism did they practice? Polytheism. Very good, very good. All right? So they had a number of temples throughout the city dedicated to various gods and goddesses of the Old Greek and now the Roman world in first century Corinth. Aphrodite, Apollo, Demeter, Cora, or Persephone, and Poseidon. And with each of these comes its own sort of set of, obviously they're false gods, so false practices that are, that concern them. But the main temple, the largest temple, is dedicated to Aphrodite. And even, we know who Aphrodite is. She is that goddess of love and desire. Now, she's the goddess of a few other things. They didn't just have one thing that they were kind of over, but she was the goddess of love and beauty, fertility, desire, and so it was a common practice then in worship to and dedication to the goddess of Aphrodite to go and partake in, or to, I don't know what the right word is there though, but there would be Aphrodite temple prostitutes. Then they would have feasts surrounding that, and that would be just a time of immorality. And, they were, of course, the Christians were saying, the Christian men were saying anyway, Well, meat's for the belly and belly for the meats. Well, it's okay because it's a physical thing, it's a natural thing, and there's no big deal. And Paul is like, no, you can't do that. You cannot commit fornication and adultery. And you certainly can't do it in honor of a false god. And so that's what they were practicing on a regular basis. And can you imagine that practice in the church today? Could you even, just even imagine that? No. But that's what Paul and the apostles and the first century gospel preachers, that's what they were up against, especially in this city. Now, to be fair, it happened in a lot of other cities too. It's not like, Corinth was a one-off. But it especially happened here. And so when I talk to these guys and talk about describing Corinth, what American city would we most likely equate the ancient Corinth to? Yeah, we would definitely equate Corinth to Las Vegas. And it's called what city? It's called Sin City. Vegas is. That's exactly right. And so, that gives you an idea. Well, it really doesn't give you an idea, but it gives you a slice of an idea of kind of what was going on in Corinth. All right, so we have Aphrodite. It had the main temple and all of the activities surrounding that. Then you had Apollo. Now he's my guy right here. He's the god of music. He's the god of music. He and Bacchus are real good friends. Bacchus is the god of wine, by the way. And so when you get music and wine together, it gets pretty bad. Apollo also is the god of healing and of archery, and a couple other things too, but those are the main things. And so there was an idea, or is an idea, back then. King David, I'm talking about the 1000 BC, King David of the children of Israel, was this kind of person. But the Greeks, and you just translate that right on into the Romans, revered a certain kind of individual. And it was an individual that had multiple capabilities. In other words, if someone was just athletic and didn't have any brains, they didn't like that person. Was okay, he was good in a fight, but that's about it. He's useless. They didn't revere that kind of a person. Someone that had glasses and could, count the whatever and knew all the stars in the sky, but couldn't lift a hammer. That person was not revered. The kind of person that was revered was what they called the universal man. And the universal man was able to do many things well. He could work with his hands. He was athletic. But he was also what we might call tender, caring, able to perform music, and like the softer side of life, if you will. So that kind of an individual is who they really appreciated. You think of Alexander the Great. He was a great warrior, absolutely, a great military genius. But he also had a softer side to him as well. And so that is one reason why Alexander was really so revered. Apollo, tough guy, but also the god of music. Demeter, should have put goddess up there. Sorry about that. Demeter is the goddess of harvest, fertility, and earth. And she is the mother of our last goddess there, and our next goddess there. And so Demeter is very closely associated, obviously, with Aphrodite, and dealing with the harvest and fertility and everything. And then Persephone is her daughter. Cora is the goddess of spring, flowers, and nature. Now, you think, oh, this is nice, kind of a dainty lady or whatever. She's the queen of the underworld. Queen of the underworld. She's married to Hades. And the reason why she is the goddess of spring is because when she comes out of the underworld, the realm of the dead, then when she comes out of the underworld, that's where you have the spring flowers and the budding of trees and fertility and things of that nature. And so she is the goddess of spring and the earth. And then finally, you had, of course, Poseidon. We know him. He's the trident guy. But did you know, not only is he the god of the sea, and many of those coastal towns had Poseidon, of course, as their main god. They needed his protection and his favor, because not only was he the god of the sea, but he's also the god of storms as well, earthquakes too. And we know that this is the Mediterranean area, very seismologically active, and so there are a lot of earthquakes that occur in this area. And so Poseidon was a main god concerning that. And then I just had to put this up here because I didn't realize this until doing a little bit of research on this, but Poseidon is said to have introduced the horse to the European people, to the Greek people specifically. And so Poseidon is the god of horses as well. So Apollo and Poseidon, they get my vote there. All right. What thoughts or questions about introduction to Corinth, the city, or the gods of and the temples of the city of Corinth?
Well, I know that in some of the stuff I found in my book,
Mm-hmm.
they was also head in the industry of ceramic.
Yes. So Corinth that's true, Gloria. Corinth was known for its ceramics, and specifically for its ebony or for its black pottery. Typically, when you go into you go into an archaeological dig site or whatever, usually the pottery is red or gray clay. Well, in Corinth, you get black, and so they added soot or whatever dye to the clay to make black pottery. And obviously when you do that and then you paint on that, then you can see that much better than the other colors. But yeah, Corinth is said to be the birthplace of that colored pottery. Mm-hmm. Very good. All right, what else? All right, that's number 2. Some interesting facts about the Corinth of Paul's day. Now, after reading, we're not going to take the time because, we just don't have any time to do this, but after reading Acts chapter 9, 22, and 26, what is it about Paul's call to be an apostle? And so, somebody tell me, what is Acts chapter 9, 22, and 26? What is that about?
Conversion.
Okay, Paul's conversion. That's true. And so, where was he when he was converted? Okay, that's right. So it began on the road to Damascus when Jesus appeared to him. And then, of course, he went in, Jesus said, "It will be told thee what thou must do." And he went into the city. And who was it that actually told Saul of Tarsus what he needed to do to obey the Lord, to call on the name of the Lord. Who was it? Ananias. That's exactly. And Chad, staying with you just for a second, was Ananias thrilled that Jesus came to him to go to Saul of Tarsus?
No, not really.
No, why not?
Because he knew of the reputation of Saul. In fact, he knew Saul coming after Christians, capturing prison, and he was a little worried about it.
He was very worried. He was very concerned. And so, Ananias, let's think about that just for a moment. Here is the Lord Jesus, the resurrected Lord, telling Ananias, I want you to go to this man and preach the gospel to him. And Ananias comes against that, doesn't he? Think about that. Now, was not Ananias a believer? He most certainly was. But, brethren, there is something in us, and maybe it's self-preservation, I don't know. But when we see and we have facts of our world that we know to be true or believe to be true, and then Jesus is telling us something different, then we have a reaction to that. Now, this is I don't want to say a physical conversation, because obviously it wasn't a physical conversation, because Jesus is in heaven. But Jesus communicated, and it was very clear to Ananias, who was communicating with him, that this is the resurrected Savior communicating with him. And yet he still has apprehensions. If Ananias had apprehensions, speaking directly to the Lord, what does that mean about us living today? What can we expect? The exact same. We're going to have fear sometimes. We're going to have that, fear of the unknown, fear of what might happen, fear of, whatever, persecution, rejection, all of those things. But in the end, when we do what Ananias did, what's going to be the result? Did Saul put Ananias into prison? No. Instead, what did he do? Okay, he obeyed the Lord. And no doubt that really boosted, like Cookie said, that boosted Ananias' confidence in the Lord. And sometimes, we have to go through those emotions and then forget about them and just get it done. Because we are going to have those. And there's no need to say, oh, I'm, all brave for the Lord. Well, then you are a better human being than John the Baptizer, who wasn't afraid of anyone. And I'm not going there. I'm not doing it. You can if you want to. I'm not. Okay. Let's look. Paul is an apostle. So Jesus blinded him on the road to Damascus. He was going to Damascus to round up. He had received papers from the chief of the Sanhedrin there, and he grabbed those papers, and he was going to Damascus to round up Christians, to put them into prison, bring them back to Jerusalem for trial and possible execution or whatever that they were going to be able to do. And on the way, Jesus shone brightly to him, blinded him, and spoke to him. Nobody else heard him, just Saul. Saul was the only one that could hear what was being said. And then they led him into Damascus.
It is interesting that there is a passage that's actually talking about this as a contradiction, because one passage says they heard something, there was a noise, but then, like you said, the actual speaking was only Paul could hear that, or Saul
That's
I
exactly
always
right.
sort of picture it like the old Peanuts TV specials, you know, that anytime an adult was speaking, wah, 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 wah,
Wah, wah, wah,
that's what they did,
exactly.
or something like that.
Yes,
Paul could
yes,
actually hear and understand what's being said.
yes. So the message was for him, but they could know that somebody was talking to him, so when he instructed them to carry him into the city or however that occurred, they knew he wasn't crazy because they saw and heard something too. They knew something was going on. It wasn't like, he was just fine one second and the next second, what do you mean you can't see? They knew that something was going on. So that's exactly right. When he went into the city, or from the time that Jesus blinded him, he went into the city to the street that was called Straight. He fasted and prayed for 3 days until Ananias came to him so that he could know what to do for salvation. Then Jesus told Ananias and Saul at that time, later then to be Paul, what his purpose was for him. Let's look at this. So when we go to Acts chapter 9 and verse 15. Who has that? Acts chapter 9 verse 15. Go ahead.
But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen vessel of mine to bear my name before Gentiles, kings, and the children of Israel.
Okay. So his primary mission is going to be what, Gloria?
To spread the gospel to, especially to Gentiles.
Okay, that's exactly right. It's interesting that he mentions that first. He mentions the Gentiles first. Oh yeah, you're going to go to kings and you're going to go to Jews too. That's like an aside. But Saul, this is your mission. You are going to take the gospel to the Gentiles. Now let's continue further. In chapter 22, verse 21. Who's got that? Chapter 22 and verse 21.
And he said unto me, Depart, for I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles.
Okay, so they were in Damascus in the area that is known as what country? It's still known as this country. Syria. They were in Syria, and he said, I'm going to send you way far away. Not just next door. I'm going to send you way far away. I'm going to send you to the Gentiles. And where is the hub of the Gentile world in the first century? No, not Corinth. The hub. All roads lead to Rome. Rome. Now he's going to have a rocky and bumpy road to get there. But he's going to get there. Why did he want to go to Rome so badly? I believe that he wanted to fulfill this mission. You are going to go far from here to the Gentiles. And the Gentile was Caesar. Did Paul appeal to Caesar? Yes, he did. He wanted to go. And we find out, by the way, through the scriptures, that who had become obedient to the cause of Christ, but who? Those that were of Caesar's household. Who taught them the gospel? Paul did. Paul did. Why? Because the Lord said, this is what you're going to do. And he did everything within his power to get it done. Did the Lord know that? Did the Lord know he was going to do that? I think he did. All right, Acts chapter 26, verse 17 and 18. What does Acts 26, 17 and 18 say?
Delivering thee from the people of the Gentiles, unto whom now I send thee, to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive
Okay, so he's going to deliver them to do what? What is he going to do here?
Turn them from going into sin and to being faithful to Christ.
So here's the thing, is that both the Jews and Gentiles hated Paul. Did they not? Both Jews and Gentiles hated Paul. And so at sometimes the Jews persecuted Paul, sometimes the Gentiles persecuted Paul, but he was going to deliver Paul through these persecutions so that he would be able to continue his work of taking the gospel, so that people would receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance. Now, he was going to deliver them from the Gentiles to whom he was going to send it. Isn't that something? So he had to get out of their clutches in order to give them the gospel. Only the Lord can do it. Only the Lord. Isn't that something? So that's what he is talking about there. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Was that the second bell?
Yeah.
Oh, the first bell. Okay. Okay. All right. He received his sight and was baptized. And Acts chapter 9, verse 17, 18. Acts chapter 9, 17 and 18. Who's got that?
And Ananias went his way and entered the house, laying his hands on him, and said, Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road as you came, has sent me that you may receive your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Immediately there fell from his eyes something like scales. He received his sight at once. He arose and was baptized.
Okay. Let's look at Acts 22, verse 16. What does that say?
And thou, white chariot, thou rise and be baptized and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Lord.
All right. And then in chapter 26, verse 19. What does that say?
Whereupon, O King Agrippa, I was not disobedient unto the heavenly vision.
Okay. What did the heavenly vision say? What did Paul want to know, first of all? What would you have me to do? And then the vision told him to do what?
To go to Damascus, and it would be told you there what you need to do.
That's exactly right. And what did Ananias tell Saul of Tarsus to do? Acts chapter 22, verse 16. Arise and be baptized. So in chapter 26, verse 19, he doesn't give the whole complete. He gives the short version. I was obedient to the vision. Jesus told him what to do, and he did it. What did he do? He went into the city, and when Ananias came to him and told him to be baptized, he was baptized. And by the way, what occurred right at baptism? His sight was restored because he obeyed the Lord. So the Lord blinded him for a short period of time. When he obeyed, if he would not have obeyed the Lord and he was not baptized into Christ, do you think he would have received his sight back? He probably would not have. They were sealed by the Lord shut. And only the Lord could open them. There was not going to be any salve from Laodicea that could help him at all. And so he was baptized into Christ after doing what for 3 days? After fasting and praying. Now I thought praying to Jesus was how you were to be saved. Is that how Paul was saved? No, that is not how Paul was saved. He was saved by being baptized in water for the remission of his sins. All right? Well, did you like that? Was that okay? Good lesson? I knew we weren't going to even get close. I didn't realize we were going to come up this short because we only got through 3. So we're going to put our marker there, and maybe we could get a little bit further next week, but that's okay. We'll just deal with whatever we got, okay? We're going to take just a short minute or two and then have our devotional period in just a second.